This is the Geek Protagonist, and normally I would do this a little closer, but I already had the thing set up. I want to get through several books. Like I said, I'm going to start doing more geeky stuff while I'm talking and kind of spread the love a little bit, because you don't know if you can tell, I got tons of books here I'm supposed to be reviewing for you guys, as well as movies, TV shows, things like that. And there's a lot of RIPs I still got to write up, like DMX, Black Rob, RIP for y'all. I got you on y'all video soon, as well as a few other people. But today, I am talking about the comic book Crimson. And here's something funny. I actually do have a translation thing, but this is written by Humberto Ramos. It has Francisco Hannebeck, Oscar Pinto. I guess this was the artist. Humberto Ramos is the artist. I actually been getting another book because I actually like his artwork. It's very interesting. Scenario, Brian Augustine, and Reg. So basically, the reason why I'm kind of going over this really quickly, if you haven't been able to tell yet, look at that. It's in French. I know I can read a little bit of it, but I do have a translation app. It was annoying though because I have to and wait for it to translate. But I do know the story of Crimson. It talks about dragons, basically how vampires came to be, things like that. So I got a little bit of a note thing here. So the plot of Crimson revolves around a young man named Alex Elder who is attacked by a gang of vampires while out late with his friends. Bitten, Alex is saved by Echimus, the last of the ancient race predating humanity, who claims Alex is the chosen one, becomes the first and last of his kind, gaining powers beyond that of a normal vampire who is destined to bring the end of vampire kind. The series follows Alex as he adjusts to life as a vampire and shoulders the responsibility of being a hero. The comic features not only vampires, but werewolves and other supernatural beings and elements, as well as biblical themes and deities. You got Alex Elder. He is the protagonist. That guy. This part here talks about the beginning of the wars. This is Alex with his friends when they get attacked. Alex, the protagonist, is a 16-year-old teenager who, out on the night with his friends, is ambushed by a savage vampire gang. He's saved by Echimus, who feeds Alex his blood and turns him into the chosen one, a vampire endowed with magical powers so as to destroy all other vampires, and who is chronicled to save the world from the coming apocalypse. Echimus, a wise, repentant, and ancient being known as the Grigori, who guides Alex in his new life as a vampire. He is known as the source of all vampirism throughout the world. Big thing about Alex too is that he is like tradition, like he can't walk around during the day. I will say I actually like the vampire group. I thought it was interesting. Very vicious. Does not hold back when you see the vampires. They got some Slayer people here. Definitely deals with Alex and his family. Jose, nicknamed Joe, a Mexican Indian vampire who becomes Alex's street mentor and best friend. Jose was actually pretty awesome, and yeah, I like that he was a Mexican Native American. Or like an Incan or something like that. Scarlet Thibault X, a female operative and daughter of the Order of the Red Hood, a family-led organization dedicated to hunting and destroying demonic creatures. She befriends Alex and later becomes a love interest. You actually only get to see her a little bit in here. That's her right there. In the red. Looks like a Little Red Riding Hood. Victor Van Fleet, a U.S. senator and powerful vampire lord with aspirations of presidency. So there's characters like Lizard. This really is a big setup. So you get to see him with his powers. He runs around a little bit naked. Then he tries to run into the sun. He's not accepting, and he's talking to Echimus, and he really is trying to train him to use his abilities, but he kind of is like, stop. Pretty much, Alex is acting like a typical teenager, and he's kind of trying to break him in. And it's interesting because he's not going after every vampire. Like right now, he's trying to go after his friends, and this dude I really did like. I do apologize, this is not for the kiddies, but Jose or Joe did something here, and so warning now, a little trigger warning, but so they don't hold back, but he actually goes after criminals. Joe is actually one of the more good-hearted kind of vampires so far. But, you know, he sees his family, he's hungry, but he's dealing with a lot of stuff. He always does the denial where he tries to eat food. Now, I love when vampires, when he does try to eat, it makes him like super sick because he's doing it wrong. What I do love about some vampire stories is when they show them eating food. So one day when I finish the series, I'm almost done. I think I'm on the last 2 seasons of Being Human. I watched the American one all the way through because it was only like 3 seasons, but I need to finish the British one. Love that show. If you want to see a very interesting show dealing with monsters, Being Human, both of them are really cool. Especially because the one character, for example, named Aiden in the American one is actually the actor who plays the vampire over there, his real name, and it kind of almost feels like they're in the same universe. The stories do delve from each other, and also too, the vampires there in the British version, they eat stuff like they can eat cereal and everything. They actually eat regular food. Of course, their abilities and things, their stronger things, comes from blood, but it's almost like an addiction. So it's not just like, I have to eat this, this is the only way I can survive. They don't actually have to. It's a part of the condition and the curse. And that was the thing that turned me on about Being Human, actually. But it's basically a werewolf, a ghost, and a vampire all live together. And they normally don't get along. Now, here's something funny that I thought was hilarious. When he gets his vampire clothes, it's so 90s, just buckles and leather. See that down there? Because Joe gives him clothes like, dude, you need some better clothing. You do see the vampires. They're very vicious, how they do stuff. It shows them hunting. He's kind of dealing with a lot of his own stuff. And Joe also is really good with dealing with people. So I'll do this as a little bit of a spoiler because I just thought it was so cool. And I think it's a really cool thing. Please get it in English. I mistakenly got this in French because what happened... I saw it pop up and it was cheaper, but the person didn't say it was in French. They said it came from France. It was a mistake they did, but because I had a translator and it was very cheap, I was like, from francs to things. I was like, you know what? I'll keep it. I'm not going to send it back. So I want to spoil this part. So they do this thing with the food. I actually have read Crimson. I had some of the comics, only had a few from Cliffhanger. So I was like, I want to get the actual volumes, right? So he spits out the food like he normally does. So what happens is the vampire dude teaches him how to eat food, human food. Not only not to get sick, but to actually taste it. Because right now when they would eat it, right, it would taste like garbage. Like it would taste like trash because that's not what they're normally eating. So how this guy would learn how to eat, where he would eat burgers, fries, and stuff, they get no sustenance from it whatsoever. I don't know how they expel it either. I'm going to assume he Ralphs. I don't know. But what is interesting... They eat it. He's like, remember, it's this way. They have this way to take a memory and make it so powerful that it reactivates your olfactory senses. So when he bites into the burger, he's actually eating from and tasting his memory of the many cheeseburgers he's had. When he eats fries, he's eating the fries. So the interesting part is he's not tasting, if he's never eaten at this place, which I think he did eat at this place before, he's remembering when he ate. And Joe teaches him, like, if you focus your memories, you can access, and this is a cool way to also explain vampires and how they live so long and don't forget. They just have to, he taught him, he's like, there, even places you don't think you remember, you can access all your memories. You just have to access it and bring it to the forefront. So when he tasted a shake and everything, he actually tasted the food like it used to be. So he was eating it from a memory of when he ate the food, which I thought that was so cool because that has a double thing. That means a vampire can also remember when he goes after him. And even Joe was like, oh, the burger's so delicious. Like, it's so good because they're feeding from the memory that, and remember, the other secret is a lot of times when you remember something, especially if you remember something tasty, it usually, or a good thing, sometimes it tastes better or the experience is better than what you actually remember. So, or what your memory is. So what I mean by that is, let's say you had this amazing steak. After a while, your brain will romanticize that flavor. So when he's channeling the memory, it might still romanticize it because your brain will fill in blanks. Where sometimes, so that makes it even taste even better. But then sometimes you'll remember it directly. So he's channeling the memory. Like I said, it's not easy to show you too much because there's a lot of blood in here. He does show that he has when the vampires were going after him and the one chick came, he was dying. When the elder gave him something, you find out like he's starting to get mixed into all this stuff. Some of his costume's not bad. I actually like it when he has the cloak on. I think that looks cooler. But Joe does help him, and there's a reason Joe like has face paint and everything. But Joe also remembers stuff. But as an elder, one of the abilities, which spoiler alert, as you can see, he can create fire, which is not a normal vampire trait. He has other abilities too. And they're still trying to find their family members and the vampires, and they because of this, they realize that something else is going on. So now they're dealing with just so much stuff. And it's just a really cool read. It's an interesting take on the coming of age of a vampire boy who kind of gets thrust into this world. And especially when he starts to realize how powerful he is. And very quickly in this book, you start to see that this guy is actually quite powerful. I would love to see a cartoon show with this. He's way more powerful than he is, and that's just the beginning. And it's already like, okay, this guy has some strength to him. And the vampires are dressed very interesting. And even how he reacts to the vampires, they react to him. They're like, okay, this guy's something else. But yet he's still dealing with the pain of, he has a little sister. He has family. He still loves his family. Erskine trying to get him to forget it, but it's not. And he's like, he's not going to forget his family. How he dreams and what he thinks about, what he deals with. There's kind of like this little adventure towards the end of the book where you start to see a little bit of his power. I'll just show you that. Like I said, I really would like to, do these closer, like the tablet here, but I just didn't, and I already had to set up, so I said, why not? But you see him thinking of his family, dealing with the stuff, and he's kind of getting visions of what's happening. And he dreams, he deals, he sleeps. And I think the story was very strong. Like I said, this is one that's definitely not for the kiddies. So Alex really has it's really dealing with a teenager trying to come to grips with my whole world got changed in one night. People I knew I cared about passed away, things happened. What do I do now? And it was kind of one of those situations, and I thought that was really cool. The story is a good setup. I have a later Crimson. Like I said, I've read some of the later stories. I think it picks up even better. I do think my rating for this is a good time. I think the story is strong. I will admit the story does feel a little bit dated now after a while. It's still a good story. But how some stories kind of capture a little bit of the time. So this is like the early 2000s, late 90s, whatever. It has some of that time feel to it where some stories don't feel as timed. Like Batman The Dark Knight Returns, even though it feels like a futuristic 80s, it still has a little bit of a timelessness to it. But if you're really into vampires and want something a little different and things like that, like I said, this is a good time. That's my rating. I think you couldn't go wrong with this. Get it in English or your language. It's a very interesting origin story. It's a different type. I gave you a little bit of details from what is there. It sets up everything that needs to be set up, and I think it does it well. It doesn't go too deep into other parts, and I think that was a good solid way to handle this. So, Crimson, like I said, fun read. No issues. I like the beginning, and I do have to admit, I think this was a really cool way to introduce vampires where they had the demons and the dragon and, all this stuff. And how vampires came to be as a species. And it's almost like, even though this dude spread vampirism across the world, they talk about they know he's an ancient. It's almost like vampires in some little ways was kind of like a separate evolution. Like how Homo sapien wasn't the only one. There was Cro-Magnon and all these different ones, and then we got to Homo sapien, and Homo sapien kind of became the dominant one, and Neanderthal kind of mixed into our group, but everyone else kind of either died off or anything. So I liked how they did that. They took it all the way back to the beginning, and you find out they were around before humanity was. So it's like humanity was one of the offshoots to vampires, and I just thought that was really cool. I would have to retranslate to do some of this, but that's my overall take. I hope it was fun for you. I hope it was a good review. The comic book company was Under Image. It was Cliffhanger. Now, here's what annoys me. What does that say right there? Editions US. This should have been in English. And like I said, I think this was just a screw up on something that I'm not blaming anyone for. But at least I was able to read it because I have a translation thing. So when I went to Japan, I used a language translator app, and I do use it even now to like translate certain stuff when I need it. It works really well. It grabs it, focuses it. You can like swipe it to make it read it and capture, and you can read it slow, or you can leave it there and it'll grab it. But you gotta be careful because you move too much, it'll like lose it. So tell me if you guys read Crimson. Like I said, it's not a bad horror story. If you like vampires, it's very different. But yet it does have that teenager kind of angst coming of age story. But you can tell there's more bigger things coming. I have another Crimson, but I gotta see what volume that is since this is volume 1. Like I said, not too expensive. I got it off of eBay. So that's pretty much all I gotta say about it. Like I said, it's a good time. Not much else to say. I hope I didn't, I tried not to give away too much of the story. There is a lot more story to the gang too. Like, it's not just a 1 or 2 off. Like, they're sprinkled throughout. And while he's dealing with stuff, the gang really shows their side. So, like I said, I left enough out. I hope I gave you enough to, if you're interested, that you would pick this up and read it. But besides that, it's a hardcover. This is the Geek Protagonist. You stay safe, you stay healthy, you stay real. And I will see you. Hopefully, I will have more of these. I have a whole stack right there I'm going to be doing. I got movie reviews, so I'm going to be trying to do a lot of these in one shot so I can just pump you guys up. And this way, when I do talk about those offshoot things, it doesn't seem like that's what I'm focused on. It's just things on my mind. So, see ya.